Hello, it's Fast Charlie, and what I have here is a Kwikset. It's a deadbolt off of a. It's one side. It's the what would normally be the interior side of a double cylinder, double deadbolt cylinder, and I have not opened this up yet. I do not have keys to it, but I thought it would be fun to make a challenge lock out of this. Maybe try to do a bit of a video on it, and it did open up pretty quickly. One thing that's cool about this is the keyway actually is pretty defined for a Kwikset. A lot of times they're really worn, so this might be really cool, and I do kind of have a key picked out for it. Let's see how that works out. Let's try to make sure that I don't get this out. I mean, this isn't a challenge lock or anything, but it's still nice to keep everything where you can see it. Okay. And it's good practice for me, so I'm not taking challenge locks off the frame and stuff. Alright, first things first, gotta pop that cookie off. Pop the clip off so I can take that back little spindle thing off. Caught it! Okay, and keep all of this so it doesn't fall out. And I'm very certain that there are no security pins in here. So, although there is a bit of a mess there, hopefully, yeah, it's like there's all those slots just in case something gets out of whack. Okay, yeah, what in the world? Oh, there must be a, this must have been master keyed. Okay. Yeah, it's got master wafers in it. Wonder what this came from. Okay. That's cool. And I'm not going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to pop them out one by one. Got the just a steel spring and a standard driver. Oh. Steel spring and a master wafer. I assume that goes down there. I just happened to get it shoved up. What's going on here? Oh, number 5 is completely stuck. Wonder if that's why it was so easy to pick, or if, that's just how they are. There we go. All right. So this is what we have to start with. I'm going to take this stuff off here so it doesn't roll off like I do so often do. And here's what we're starting out with. Interesting. All those master wafers. And this is what we're starting out with on the plug. And of course, the Bible will have no modifications at this time, but I am sure it will. Alright. Alright, so I have picked out a key. It is a Kwikset. It is actually one that came on a door that, actually a door lock for a smart key. This is exactly how it came. I have gone ahead and marked the depth of the current lowest cut. I actually used a method I learned from Ahrens as far as marking depth, and that is using calipers. So there is that, and I am going to, at this point, just fill in these holes. This is all dried up, and I saved the time and went through and found pins to match all of these except for number 2. As you can see, they should look pretty good, and except for number 2. Okay, so there is a website that West Coast Picks actually pointed out, and it has the spaces and the information from the keys for many of the major brands. So what I did is I went ahead and measured the distance, number 2, and it is 0.397, and I just used a micrometer caliper to scratch the distance from the bow, or whatever you want to call it, but at the start. So there's a tiny little scratch right there. So that is where I am going to begin filing. Okay, so I have a pretty good groove going. Thankfully, when I started filing this, I didn't go too far. It would have been disastrous. I would have had to start over with a new key. I'm going to go ahead and start filing with a bigger round file now. Okay, so we're just about there at that line, and I'm testing it again. That's just a shade high. Okay, so I've pinned it back up, and here is the key. We are going to see if that will work. Might be a little too steep. Well, let's give it a try. And it does go in and out. Okay, awesome. And let's make sure. Something happened there with pin 2. What did I do? Well, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. Okay, well now it is time to make some decisions about our pins and how we're going to modify them. I did have some pins that I had already made up for other things that didn't work out for other locks, and also just some things that I made recently that I was experimenting with after seeing a few things online. So I think because of how this is set up, we need to keep the number 2 and 4, keep those as standard sized driver pins, just because they are pretty tall, and I find that it's a lot easier to deal with the springs that way. So going to get some things together, grab my tweezers, and get cracking on these probably key pins now. Alright, so what I've done is I have swapped out the vise head with this little holder. It doesn't fit my Dremel, but that is quite alright. I am just going to put this in here. So I'm going to stick a serration on the very base of this, and I'm going to do that by using this little trick. It's a X-Acto razor saw, And I learned that from Trekmaster 30. Okay, so I've done some touching up, and I'm going to try to zoom in here. And there it is. It actually seems to be pretty good. I did a little thing like I see on people talking about on the Lockwoods, how they're tapered. And what I'm going to do is check to see how, make sure it goes in. It goes in nicely. Now I just need to make, so it goes in nicely. Now I need to make sure that it will work with a reasonably sharp driver or squared end driver under tension. So I try to do that for every pin that I make so that it does work. I need to make sure that the key comes out now. And it does. Awesome. Make sure it goes back in. Cool beans. All right, so here's an interesting little guy I found in my container of pins. And I'm just going to put him in key side first and make some modifications. All right, for number 2, we have that little bit of a taper, but I am going to try adding a little bit of a spool to it right about here, but just below that taper. See how that works out. Or a lot of a spool. And my Dremel, this is, I have some sacrificial, nut and collets and all that kind of jazz. So I don't worry too much if I bump it. And there is that spool. Okay, here in number 4 key pin, we have a long pin, so we have the opportunity to do some things. I think I am going to try to start, try to make a spool. That should be cool. And here it is. I have a very experimental driver pin that I would like to see how a regular pin reacts with it. It's pretty wild. I hope it doesn't get caught up. I'm going to have to do some testing with this to make sure that it will work with a key. But here's this dude. We've got kind of like a half spool and a half spool on the lower half. So we have like 2 half spools, and then I made it so the very bottom where it touches the key pin actually has a cutout, so it only touches on 1/2. So I'm gonna test this out in just a second, make sure the key works. Okay, I put number 5 pins in, and there's a spring in there, and I'm holding it down, and it seems to work just fine. So I'm gonna go from there. Okay, so here's what I have in number 1, potentially, I believe. I think it'll interact nicely with that little tapered top of that key pin. So this is a little bit of a T-pin with 2.5 spools, I would call it. I'm not sure exactly what to call it. But anyway, I think that'll go really well with some threading. And then number 3 is absolutely and completely inspired by Bill Bacardi's experimental number 65. I have a T-pin here, a cutoff spring, a little slider, and I soldered a wafer with a hole in it to the top. And don't ask me how long it took me to do this. It's insane that I actually would spend that much time doing this, because I messed it up and had to fix it, and then I reduced the diameter of this. This is going to go to the top, but I reduced the diameter because it's all wonky, as you can see. It's a little wonky, but should be a fun thing. Totally plagiarized or stole or whatever from a couple of Bill Bacardi's ideas, and I would definitely have to put that in the bibliography in college, and if I didn't, I'd get kicked out. Okay, so now what we have left is the driver pins in 2 and 4, and as you notice, there's not a lot of room. So I'm going to make, oops, wrong one, in 4 and 2. So I'm going to make a really sharp edge bottom to this fairly sharp edge. So I don't want it to get caught. Not sure how exact this is going to be, but a fairly sharp edge and a fairly sharp edge at the bottom, and I'm going to make spools out of these. All right, so here we go with driver pin 2. I'm going to put a serration at the end, then I'm going to flip it around, put another serration at the other end. Okay, so I flipped number 2 around, and I'm going to put a serration in the other end, and then take a file to it to make a spool out of it. All right, let's see what we have here. Turned out a little different than I envisioned, but that's okay. So that's decent. I'll get a different close-up later. Boy, that's a little hard to see. Okay. Okay, this might turn out to be something a little bit different. It might turn out to be like a stair-step mushroom. I'm not sure. I just have this file, and I'm gonna try to taper it toward this high end. This is gonna be the upper part that touches the spring. Actually, it kind of turned out more like a spool, it looks like, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see what it looks like. It's a little bit of a mushroom pin. Not exactly, but kind of. It's a mushroom shape. We'll give it that. I need to clean these up with some sandpaper and go from there. All right, well, I am back over, got everything set up back at my normal picking area. Again, here's the key, and we do have all of them pinned up, and gonna try out the key just to make sure that it still slides in there smoothly. Looks good to me. And also going to test out these pins just to see where they are when they are just at rest. All right, there's that. I am gonna go off camera and take off, let's see, this bottom right here. Yeah, I'm gonna take the bottom off of this one so that it sits a little deeper, so that the spool interacts a little bit more with the lock in general. And should be cool. Next, I think I'm going to look at the possibility of threading and countermilling. All right, so got this done. Knock out everything. And so we have threads in 1, 3, and 4 in the Bible, and 1, 3, and 5 in the plug. Okay, so I ended up adding a little bit of countermilling to 2 and 4. Not super clean, but just to trip up picking those spools in both of those chambers. What I do is I stick this in the Dremel and just kind of angle it both ways. And then I touch it up just to take off some of the burrs and stuff. With this little dude, do the same thing. And I am going to give this its first test. This is the first time I have put this in here. And I'm going to take this shim out. And I'm going to go ahead and put that clip in just so it doesn't move around on me. And I'm going to give it a test. I'm hoping. Got a little catch. This might be a counterclockwise only deal. That's okay. It works. I would like to know what the catch is. I might try to figure it out, but there it is. The key is, whoa, a little tough to get out. Not bad to put in. I'm thinking, maybe. No. Man, that is tough. I might have to mess with the springs a little bit. I did put a double spring in 4, and I had to cut 3 because of that super long spring. Make it a little shorter, but I'm going to mess around with this, see if I can get it working. There we go. Okay, I think it might just be a spring issue. There was probably just a little catch. I will check into it. Okay, so I did figure some things out. In number 1, I ended up having to do a little bit of filing with a round file to smooth this out. It was really catching. It was just really catching quite a bit. And then in number 3, I ended up putting a standard pin in. Those serrations were just really getting, I just put the serrations way too low on the pin. And they were getting caught up in the key. So I have the rest of this pinned up, and should be good to go. And pull that out, and we are turning. And I'll take this key out. Oops. It's a little tough to get out right now, but okay. There we go. Okay. There. Now, it's hard to do with the clip off, but anyway, there we go. And yeah, if anyone wants to help name it, that would be really cool. Just leave it in the comments. But there's one key, 1 driver, 2 key, 2 driver, 3, I had to use a standard. I was having trouble with that key. Not sure why. I think I was putting the serrations too low for that type of low of a pin, short of a pin. Here's the Bill Bacardi imitation with the little springiness. 4 key, 4 driver, 5 key is a standard, and then this little doohickey is the driver. And I did have to cut trim springs on 1 and 3. That's it. Thanks.